What's going on, everybody? This is Owen from Owen's Rock and Metal Podcast. Welcome in today to episode number 45 of the program. Today is going to be a two-part episode, two separate interviews about the video game franchise Guitar Hero. Going to be talking about the game's legacy, its impact, different songs, different versions of the game, all sorts of angles to talk about from the game. Going to be having two separate conversations today. For the first part here, which we are having right now, I'm joined by frequent guest of the program, a friend of mine, likes Guitar Hero. We actually had a chance to play the other night. Guest of the show, friend of the show, Jaxon. Welcome back to the program. Thank you for coming on today. How are you doing on this Sunday afternoon?
I'm great. Yeah, thanks for having me again. I always love coming on the podcast. It's an honor.
Dude, we love having you. Look forward to it every time. So today we are here to talk about Guitar Hero. As I mentioned on the top, we did have a chance to play the other day. You had quite the nice setup. You had you had two guitars, you had drum set, you had a microphone. Definitely someone who is dedicated to the game, who's a fan of the game. Why don't you start just by telling me a little bit about how did you first get into Guitar Hero and how have you built up this collection of equipment?
Yeah, well, I talked about it the last time I think I was on. We were talking about Ozzy. I talked about him being in the game and all that stuff. Like a lot of people, I played Guitar Hero. I started it in the Wii era when the Wii was huge. And that was probably about 2008. And a lot of people had Guitar Hero World Tour. That was actually the first one I played. And that was the first one that introduced drums, bass, and vocals. So it was a big deal. It had a lot of different stuff. Guitar Hero 3 did really well. That's a fan favorite. And then this one just added more and it made it kind of more of a party game. And at that time, games like that, like Just Dance or Wii Sports were huge party games, get together with your family and play in front of the TV. So this was just one of those other ones. And I got really into that. And then after World Tour, then I actually went back and played Guitar Hero 3 and that just went on from there. So it was something that as long as I've had a Wii, I've always had Guitar Hero. As far as the equipment goes, I think that's kind of the downside of Guitar Hero because stuff breaks and they're cheap and then they're kind of hard to store. Where do you put it if you don't have a lot of space? Especially the drum set kind of can be an eyesore if it's like in your living room or something. But yeah, at some points I had less stuff than I do now because stuff would just break. But actually, the guitar you were using the other night and the red one that John was using were both ones. Well, the red one was an original one. I've had that one since probably 2008 or 9. And then the other one you had was actually like at my grandpa's house, but then I got a hold of it because, he didn't need it or whatever. And then, yeah, the drums I've changed. I've had to switch pedals or get new bass parts because they just break. But I like having to, have all the stuff and be able to pull it out whenever you get people over and you want to play it.
Yeah, definitely. I was impressed. For those who don't know, Jackson has a double bass pedal on a Guitar Hero drum set. Never seen. Plays on Expert plus plus. Bit of a sweat, bit of a try hard on certain
Yeah.
songs. I was very impressed. For me, similar to you, I got Guitar Hero in the Wii era of the game. That was when the Wii was huge. I still think the Wii is one of the great consoles of all time. But Guitar Hero World Tour, I believe, was also my first Guitar Hero as well. Although to speak to what you said about the success of 3, it was massively popular. And I just read, in the few minutes leading up to this, that it was the first video game to reach $1 billion in sales. So
Nice.
just to its magnitude. And looking through the set list of the songs on Guitar Hero 3, definitely classics. People say, it's the undisputed best game. And we can talk about which game is our favorite. But I had, the Guitar Hero on the Wii, had World Tour, I think Guitar Hero 5, I had Band Hero, and I had maybe one other version. I had a Guitar Hero on the DS. I believe it was World Tour for the DS with the
Yeah.
little insert on the bottom to mimic the guitar. For those who don't know, before we just go diving full on in, Guitar Hero, wildly successful video game franchise from about 15, 20 years ago. Several games, several variations of it. There was artist-specific versions. There was, even different shoot-offs like DJ Hero and things like that. For those who don't know what Guitar Hero is, really missing out because unfortunately now the game is really just a nostalgic thing. It's not what it once was, of course. And it's oftentimes people have to hold on to these items because it can be a little tricky to find replacements or new versions. And, you have to have a Wii in the first place, which not everybody does. I got rid of my Wii long ago. So, iconic game. Guitar would feature 5 buttons, color coded, and you would have a bar to strum with. And then you could have like a whammy bar or different variations. And then the drums, same kind of concept. It would be just pads that are color coded, color code for the cymbals. And you would play as the bar is scrolling down. And then eventually, the first 3 Guitar Hero games were just guitar. And then with Guitar Hero World Tour, and then later versions after that, there was a whole band focus with, a drum set and even a microphone to sing. And you could have a bass player on a separate guitar. So really getting that band sort of atmosphere. In terms of games you had, I know you mentioned that Guitar Hero World Tour was the first Guitar Hero you got. How many other Guitar Heroes did you end up adding to your collection over the years?
A lot of those ones that we played the other night, again, I've had the CDs break and I've had to buy replacements for those. But yeah, and I Smash Hits, which is, again, there's so many spin-offs of the game. Five, it was after World Tour. Smash Hits I liked a lot because it had just a bunch of a bunch of songs from the previous games that were just really popular, songs from Guitar Hero 3 and stuff like that. Guitar Hero 2, which I never played Guitar Hero 2 and 1. So a bunch of those were on there. The Guitar Hero 3 didn't have drums. So these songs now have drum tracks. And I really got into that. And yeah, that game influenced the heck out of me as far as music tastes, just exposing me to artists at a younger age. It is part of what influenced me to want to play drums because I thought it was so cool. Yeah, but so Smash Hits, and then we played did we play another one? I start to forget. Warriors of Rock was like the last one to come out. I did have Band Hero.
Yes.
Feel like there's one I'm forgetting. Maybe I'm not. I don't know. I had 3. I had Aerosmith, which came with 3. I didn't really play that one a lot because I wasn't a huge Aerosmith fan.
Right.
I think there's an AC/DC one, right?
Yeah, I believe. Well, talking about that, there are several like band specific. I know like Metallica had a version. You mentioned
I know.
Eros. Let me find a list here.
Yeah, Metallica would be cool. That'd be a fun one to play.
Yeah, as a big Metallica fan now, definitely would like to have an opportunity to play that. But it looks like Aerosmith was the first Guitar Hero game to center on one specific artist. That came out in 2007. And Metallica came out in 2009. There was a Guitar Hero Van Halen as well. That's an obvious
Right.
choice. And there's other versions, but those are the big ones I see noted on the old Wikipedia page. Yeah, never had really much exposure to those band specific games either. For me, in terms of like influence and exposure with these games, I would play a lot of just the stuff I knew. So I wouldn't really go off onto new material or things I didn't know. But I can definitely remember playing with my siblings, my brothers. We tried to make the band. So if somebody's singing, somebody's playing the guitar, somebody's playing the drums, or sometimes, you're just playing alone, and that's fine too, like on the DS. And, it was just cool to be able to be engaged with the music more so than when you're just sitting there listening to it. I believe if I have my timeline correct, I was taking guitar lessons in about the 4th grade. And I think I was playing the guitar before I got Guitar Hero. So that's kind of a chicken or the egg thing. I'm not sure which one came first, but it was around the same times. It was kind of neat to go from playing the actual instrument to playing it on a video game format. Sometimes it was a little frustrating because it's like I can play this, or I mean, starting out on guitar, you can't play any of that
Mhm.
stuff on Guitar Hero, but it kind of helps you level up a little bit. And I think if you see somebody who's good at Guitar Hero, it was maybe a little frustrating for me because, well, they're good at this video game, but they can't play the actual
Yeah.
instrument, which I'm learning to do, which is more impressive.
Mhm.
Obviously with time, obviously like playing a guitar is playing a real instrument is going to be more impressive than playing on Guitar Hero. But Guitar Hero is fun, like you mentioned. It's a party game. It's meant to kind of
Yeah.
bring together and have a good time. So yeah, talking about the game and your connection with it, playing with friends, different people being brought in, that whole sort of camaraderie. Do you have any sort of memories or stories to share of times you played Guitar Hero in a group
Yeah.
setting?
Yeah, yeah, and first of all, I just want to say too, to your point, it's a completely different skill to play Guitar Hero. It's like a whole another skill to do that than actually play guitar. What's cool about the drums is once you get to the expert section, or some of the games have expert plus and you get another bass drum pedal, the parts start to become really close to the actual drum parts, and it's a little closer because you do have to be it's a, like a rhythm thing, a timing thing. And yeah, once you get on those higher difficulties with the drums, it gets really close. But guitar, you're on a higher difficulty and it's just a harder button pattern. It's not getting closer to the actual part. So it's kind of interesting how they divide like that. And I think maybe that's part of why I also liked drums so much more. Is as you get better, you start to feel closer. And not that it's not, you're not going to learn how to play drums from playing Guitar Hero, but it will help your muscles and it'll give you chops in your wrists and your legs. And even going back and playing from time to time, with you, I was like, man, I can feel my legs are burning because I was just using them and getting those chops back. But yeah, I've played so much Guitar Hero throughout the years. I really like it. And I always, like I said, want to have the ability to pull it out in a group setting or plan to play it or whatever. Played it a lot when I was young, slowed down towards probably played a little in middle school and then started to slow down a little. And then I didn't play it in high school for a long time. And then towards the end of high school and going into college, it was something that somehow got brought back into my friend group. And we would get together and we would play songs at my mom's house on the Wii. And we had a fun time because we had four people and we would like basically joke around and, pretend we're in a band and make a bunch of jokes about, stupid, I don't know, inside jokes about, oh yeah, like we wrote Freebird. Like, yeah, that's a classic of ours. Because you're playing no original songs, it's just all covers. But oh yeah, we wrote Freebird and we also wrote one just like stuff like that. So much so to like even when a couple of us are designers in the friend group, like graphic designers. So we went on like a vacation and we went to a few different spots in the South. And we hit Georgia and South Carolina and stuff. And so one of my friends made a poster for our Guitar Hero band. It was like the Southeast tour, and it's a picture of us that we took playing. And it's just a fun time to kind of joke around with all that. Yeah, I mean, I get really into it. Really, even I did play in middle school, actually quite a bit at the beginning, maybe not 7th and 8th grade, but like 6th grade. And I'd have friends over. We'd be in the basement and, we like turn the lights off. So it's like just the TV that's on. So, it's flashing and everything. And I crank it as loud as it can go. And we would just switch off instruments and play stuff and have fun.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day, having fun, and like you said, kind of especially with the Wii, and you talk about these other games, Just Dance, Wii Sports, they bring people together, and I think Guitar Hero is no different. So you mentioned, did you mention that you had Guitar Hero 3?
Yeah.
So I want to just take a second here for the audience or people who may not know. Just go through the songs from. We'll look at Guitar Hero 3 and then we'll look at World Tour since that was one that we both had, and we can kind of just, if there's any specific song that you have a story about or if there's a song that you liked playing, feel free just to call it out as we scroll along here, but just looking at, classic Wikipedia here. 73 songs in Guitar Hero 3. I believe, based off what I just read on Guitar Heroes and Guitar Hero 2's list of songs, I feel like this was probably the largest collection of songs in the series up to date.
Three, you think? Maybe. I don't know.
73 seems like a lot, but I don't know. I don't have a ton of experience with this game. I did not play it a lot, but
Mhm.
one thing I did notice there was like guitar battles in here. Did you
Yeah.
ever engage with that at all?
Not so much on the Wii. I did a little bit. So my friend, my good friend Davis he was really into this game. So I'd go over to his house and we would play 3 instead of World Tour, and we would, like, guitar battle, but he was better than me, so he would beat me on guitar. But, yeah, I've had a low experience, honestly, more so with the DS. I would guitar battle people, at school on the DS version, and, I had a few of them. I think I had 2 or 3 of the DS games, like, maybe there I don't know how many there were. It was at least 2, but yeah.
Yeah, I definitely had at least one on the DS. I wanna say it was World Tour. I liked it. It was fun. I liked the DS.
Yeah, the funny thing about the DS, they had different things you had to do, for the guitar battles. So, the guitar battles they didn't go away. There's still guitar battles within World Tour. I don't know if you can do it locally, but I know throughout the campaign, you have to guitar battle. So, Zach Wild is, for example, one of the guys you have to guitar battle. The Guitar Hero 3, that was the whole thing. It was towards that middle section of the game, I think, like middle or they have like Tom Morello, right? That's how you say his name from
Yeah, yeah.
Rage. And
Yep.
they have Slash, and they have a bunch of these famous people, and you have to beat them like bosses in 3 until like the last one's the devil, and you play like the devil went down to Georgia, and that's really cool. But what's funny is so those ones you get power ups as you play, and you can throw them at one guy, and kind of like Mario Kart or something. It's like you get a power up and you use it on someone, and it messes them up. The DS I thought had really funny ones because it was different because they tried to include the stylus. So you would get a power up and maybe you're playing against somebody and you throw it at them and it would be like they have to autograph something. Like a fan is asking them to autograph something. So you have to like do it real quick and then go back to the song. And I thought that was pretty funny.
Right. Yeah, definitely interesting talking about the gameplay of it. For me, I remember because that's part of what I remember, specifically with like World Tour. I'm not sure how this differed from like the earlier versions of the game, but there being like, you're a band in World Tour and you're going on tour and you're starting in like smaller venues and you build up to these bigger venues and you have to, hit a certain score or however that worked. And if I remember right, when you're building your set list, you have to include like certain songs along each part of it, like for each as the venue gets more difficult, the song gets more difficult.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting because I think going back now, I don't have Guitar Hero, but I would probably just free play, just play the
Mhm.
songs. I don't know how much of the actual gameplay I would do for you. And I don't know if you can speak on this in terms of how the game broke down. Were you able to play, every song that's included on the song list from the jump, or did you have to like unlock them, like to earn them to be able to play those songs freely?
Yeah. So I believe 3, you had to unlock them and you had to go through the campaign because the campaign was such a big part of the game. And 3, that was the whole thing. So, and I feel like that was still kind of a party game, maybe. I didn't play it when it initially came out, but I feel like people would just take turns playing on the TV and you'd watch or whatever. So, if that one, I know you have to unlock quick play on World Tour, they were all unlocked already just from the rip. But it would show you what songs you've completed at what difficulties in what setups, which is kinda interesting. So if 2 people play and then you play quick play, it'll show you all the songs that you've played with 2 people and the difficulties. But if you do 4 people, it'll be different because it's gonna only show you what you've completed with 4 people. So that's kinda interesting. But, yeah, I think that's the only one that, um does that. And I should have honestly, when we played the other night, I should have just showed you what the campaign setup looks like because a lot of them are really the same. They make the set list for you, and the songs, yeah, get harder as you go further. And it's kind of cool because it's like a show poster, and
Right.
it'll show you what songs are on there, and it'll say the venue, and there's some art on it, and you work your way up. I think World Tour, I mean, especially for the Wii didn't have great graphics, but they put the most work in the graphics on World Tour, and then everything else from there on was just ports. They would make it for the Xbox and there would be a port for the Wii and it would look pretty bad. It almost went backwards. It got worse, but that doesn't change the mechanic of playing the songs or, doing anything with the controls. So, yeah, World Tour has some cool stages. They have your last stage you're at it's actually I think from 2008 to 2009, and you're at Times Square
Mm,
for the ball drop, which is pretty cool.
yeah,
And yeah, they have some great stages on that one. But yeah,
definitely. I remember for that vaguely. I don't remember the specifics of it, but and just remembering, getting nervous or the nerves for this fake concert or
I
see
know.
bar slide up and you're like, "Oh god, what's about to happen?" And if you knew it was a song you were messing up on, you just had to prepare for it. When I was younger, I never really I've never reached the peak of Guitar Hero. I don't even think I played on like hard mode. Even the other night, I don't even think I strayed off of medium. That once you include that orange button, that really fucks me up. So
Yeah,
green, red, yellow, blue. If I can just keep my fingers there, that's fine. But then when I have to like move my hand, I'm kind of screwed at that point. But talking, going back to the songs, just for the people watching at home, which I'm sure there's many of them. So just reading off some of these artists' name here, just to get the vibe. Obviously, it's Guitar Hero. This is not Hip Hop Hero. So we got some Queens of the Stone Age, some Sex Pistols, Slipknot, Rage Against the Machine, the Smashing Pumpkins, Cliffs of Dover, Eric Johnson. I remember. Did you ever play like? Would you ever go to like an arcade and like play the Guitar Hero
yeah.
version at the
That's
arcade?
that's a
Yeah,
big thing too. That was Guitar Hero 3. I think that's the only one that got an arcade machine. I still see that today. If you go to certain arcades or places, I'm sure they still have it.
yeah. I remember playing Cliffs of Dover. In an arcade, and I was playing against somebody, and I was going to, I thought, "Oh, I play guitar. I can play Guitar Hero." And now I hadn't played Guitar Hero at years in this point. This was in high school. I had long stopped playing the Wii. It had been several years, and I thought, "Well, let me pick a hard song, and I'll show this person up." And I got totally just ran over. I was like, "Wow, that was bad." It did not go as I expected it to go. So my guitar skills, which were, not even like Cliffs of Dover level in real life, did not translate even to the video game version. Um, but moving on here, you mentioned The Devil Went Down to Georgia here, which looks like this was from the Solo Tier 8 Battle for Your Soul boss battle. We've got some Pearl Jam, the guitar battles like we talked about. Some Dead Kennedys, some Muse, ZZ Top, Tenacious D, Mountain with Mississippi Queen, classic. Iron Maiden, Metallica, The Rolling Stones, Black Sabbath, Slayer, The Scorpions, Aerosmith, The Who, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Poison, Guns N' Roses, and The Killers. And now there are also bonus songs. And I've noticed looking on here, one of these bonus songs is kind of a big song in the Guitar Hero fandom, and that's Through the Fire and Flames. I feel like that was the one that's like the pinnacle of like difficulty, or at least
Yeah.
like the meme of it, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, so that song, so like I said, the final boss battle is The Devil Went Down to Georgia. You win that. The credits song is that, and you unlock it when you beat the game. And it doesn't matter while the credits are rolling, it doesn't matter if you screw it up. It's not like you have to restart and watch the credits again. It just lets you play it if you want.
Right.
Or I think you can skip the credits entirely if you want. Yeah, that game, or sorry, that song, yeah, that's a big one. That's on Smash Hits. And that was always kind of when I would play with my friends, how we would end the night is we'd play that song and a couple other ones. I think Beast and the Harlot from Avenged Sevenfold. Um, we play that one too. Those were like our enders, and they would kill us, and
Yeah.
we'd barely get through it. And normally on drums, and I'm, by that point, just completely spent, like just trying to play, and yeah. So
Yeah. And that's another thing we didn't mention, but in terms of just the basic gameplay for those unfamiliar, if you tank the song, you will get booed off the stage and you don't get to finish it. So you have to keep up. You can't just like, hit half or a quarter of your notes. You got to be able to keep up to a certain degree. And then, you can build up your streaks and you can use like star power. I don't really know what the hell all that does, but it's fun to do, I guess.
Yeah, more score related. I treat star power, at least when I was maybe not as good as I am now, I would treat star power as, oh, I'm failing, turn on star power. I won't get booed off because it doubles your points. There's a meter that shows you how many points you're getting, and the longer your streak goes, the more it will amplify. So it starts at like times 2, and I think it goes to 3 and then 4, and 4 is the most. But if you do star power, it doubles it. So 4 would be 8. But then if you miss a note, you go back down to 2. With star power on, it's 4. So it's a more of a points thing. A lot of the time when you're playing with friends, that doesn't really matter though. So we just save it for when we start screwing up. If we're playing a really hard song and then somebody's bombing and they got to like turn it on, and then it'll help us keep going on the song. But some of the games like Warriors of Rock, one person can get booed off and the rest of the band can bring them back in if they are playing enough notes and hitting all of them.
Right. Yeah. I had just remembered, just thinking back to playing that and just the fun that was for that time, in my life. And now that is just a memory, unfortunately. But thinking about, playing different stuff, different instruments, did you always gravitate towards the drums? For me, before you answer that, I would, I do play the guitar in real life. I wouldn't play the guitar a lot when I was younger. You know, I barely even played on medium. I was playing more. I remember playing the beginner a lot, which was just the rhythm. There's no buttons involved. Just it was just a rainbow bar, and you just have to strum on the beat. And I think I eventually got to like easy. I didn't like to really challenge myself. I wanted it to be as easy as I could, just have fun, relax. But I also remember liking to sing. Once the microphone was introduced, I would try to sing. I think it was on maybe Guitar Hero 5. There was a Beastie Boys song, "No Sleep Till Brooklyn," and I was like, "Oh, I know the
It's on
chorus
tour, but yes, I'm not exactly.
on tour."
Yeah.
So I remember trying to sing that one. I was like, "I will do the vocals on this." And it's a rap song, and I'm like, "All right, it's like rap rock." I know the chorus. I know the main title part of it. I was like, "All right, I'll just do that." And then totally get flattened once like the actual like lyrics are coming off. It was just going too fast. It's like, oh boy. But I would try I liked singing a lot. Did you ever have anything else like, obviously gravitated towards the drums, but was there any other sort of things that you liked to do not on drums?
So I started actually. So when we got ours and we got the Wii, we got the game. We only had guitars. I didn't start with drums, and
Mhm.
I would play. I remember starting on beginner, and it's just the one bar, and you're not even pushing buttons. You're just strumming, and then going to easy, which is 3 fingers. It's just green, yellow, red, and then going eventually to medium, which is 4. And then I was on that for like a long time, as far as guitar goes. And then maybe around middle school, I started trying to do hard. But yeah, so started on guitar. I only had guitar for a while. We actually got I think I don't, when did Band Hero come out? Does it say that?
I was actually just pulled up the Band Hero wiki. Band Heroes came out in 2009.
Okay. So I think we had World Tour and we had guitars in 2008, which only allowed me to play bass and to play guitar. And that was my options. I think my grandpa he got the drum set at his house. So whenever the grandkids would come over, we'd play. So he had the World Tour drum set, which the model is a lot different than from the Band Hero set. So I dabbled at my grandpa's, but it was like just too much kind of going on for me. And then my dad got the Band Hero drum set, which the model is way better than the World Tour one, just in terms of, I think, looks and feel too. And then once I actually had it at my house, I had time to like practice it basically. And yeah, I thought that was like the coolest thing because it was so different from good bass or guitar. Those were kind of the same thing.
Right.
But then this is like a completely different, like just everything is different. So I thought that that was really cool. And I thought that that pushed me to want to play drums. I thought it was even cool customizing your drum set in the game because something we didn't do the other night because it's like we just want to play the songs. We don't care like what our characters look like.
Right.
But I had custom characters on all of those games that we played that I had specifically made them look a certain way, and I made their instruments look a certain way. It's very the detail on that is actually pretty impressive because on the guitar, you can pick all kinds of stuff, especially on world tour, of the finish and the model and what the body looks like, and then like the head and the stock, and even I don't know what the technical name is for the knobs like that you turn to tune the guitar. You can change what those look like. Very specific. So customizing the drum set I thought was awesome because it's really easy to see. It's the biggest thing.
Right.
So man, you see my drum set up there. And yeah, it just was so cool. We got a mic eventually. I wasn't super into singing because I feel like a lot of people get embarrassed to sing, to put
Yeah.
themselves out there and do it. But I dabbled in it just here and there, but it wasn't anything that I ever felt super comfortable trying to sing. So yeah, that's where I landed. The drums really just caught me. I thought it was really neat.
You're a drummer through and through, not a singer. Definitely understandable. You mentioned Band Hero in there. Band Hero also had the band element to it, but it was a different sound. It was less on the rock and the metal side of things. It was more of a pop kind of sound. And I'll just pull up that set list here to kind of show people what I mean. So we have like things from the Jackson Five. We have, Counting Crows, Joan Jett, Janet Jackson, Evanescence. Now, that's a little bit on the metal side of things, but it was an interesting blend. You have some No Doubt in there, Poison, the Turtles, the Rolling Stones, Marvin Gaye. So you have an interesting blend here. I do remember having this game,
Mhm.
even some Taylor Swift in there,
Yeah.
and I think it's interesting to look at it from where I'm at now. When I played this game, this was 2009, so that's over 15 years ago. I was like 10 years old. I didn't know, what these songs were. So my knowledge of music has definitely expanded a lot. And I think when we went to play the other night, it's more enjoyable because I know more of the songs, and some of the songs that I don't maybe know but I've still heard of the band. My frame of reference is a lot better
Mhm.
now than it was when I was actually playing these games all those years ago. So definitely interesting to look back in the soundtrack and be like, oh, I had this game. I don't anymore. It's like, what was I doing? Why wasn't I playing
Yeah.
that? Why wasn't I exposing myself to more of this?
I know, yeah. That a lot of those songs and bands, it was the first time I was ever hearing them. Some of them I knew going into Guitar Hero because my dad had played them or talked about them or whatever. My dad, like I mentioned, like going into Guitar Hero World Tour, I knew Crazy Train, right? Very popular song. I knew who Ozzy was, right? So I
Right.
knew this. I didn't know who Zach Wild was. I didn't know it was stillborn, and I didn't that was the first time hearing that song. And in learning who Zach was, I was watching my dad guitar battle Zach Wild. And he asked me if I knew who that is. I'm like, no, of course I don't know who that is. And he was explaining like, oh, like he was Ozzy's guitar player, and then he has his own band, Black Label, and this is one of their songs, so giving me a little bit of education and culture
Right.
to music. So yeah, there were some songs I knew, but I had never heard like Tool, and like my dad, from what I can remember, likes Tool, but like he didn't. That's not something he really played. I didn't know what that was, and I got exposure from that game. But what's so cool about Guitar Hero is, yeah, as you get older and you mature and learn more about these bands and musically, and especially if you're into rock and metal, you can look back at the game and gain more appreciation for what is in the game and all the songs. And maybe when you were 10 years old, you didn't like Tool or whatever, but then we go back and play it, now you're like, wow, this is cool. They have like quite a few good songs from them.
Yep.
Also, speaking of Tool, like for
Dude.
the longest time, that game was like one of the only things licensed to use their music and imagery, which is really cool. But yeah, like I never even appreciated that when I was young. And then around high school, I realized I kind of was getting into Tool, and I was like, oh, I know this song from Guitar Hero when I was listening to Tool. And then I started to appreciate, like, wow, this is really cool that this is on this game. And yeah, a bunch of other artists, same deal.
Right. Yeah, definitely unique, a different perspective looking back on it now. Just gonna pull up the set list here to Guitar Hero World Tour. Would you say that it's safe to say that Guitar Hero World Tour is your favorite game?
It's hard because they all play differently.
Mhm.
Guitar Hero World Tour, you have to be very exact with how you're hitting the buttons and how you're playing the drums, but they don't have a lot of songs that included double bass. And I will say for the drum part on Guitar Hero World Tour, it's less realistic. Sometimes the expert is just throwing in different patterns just to make it harder.
Mhm.
But I do think the set list is really good as I think it's well rounded. And I think the graphics are the best. It's what introduced bass, singing, and drums, which is a pretty big deal. Um, I think they put the most work into it as far as for the Wii goes. So I don't know. It's that's hard. It's either that game, or I don't know. It's either that one or probably Warriors for me.
Mm. Was that
Warriors is more metal focused though, so I don't know if that's only because, like, nowadays I really like that. I don't know. I'm probably World Tour, I would say. 3 is cool too, but probably
right?
World Tour.
Okay, okay. So let's look at this. So this is 86 songs compared to the 73 that was on Guitar Hero 3. You choose between 3 to 6 songs for a set list. Gigs can contain a boss battle, wide variety of artists. Some of these songs are even exportable to Guitar Heroes 5 and Band Hero as well. So really kind of building that infrastructure Guitar Hero was at the time. So, we got songs from Nirvana, we got some Lenny Kravitz, more Muse, System of a Down, Band on the Run. I remember playing Band on the Run. The Hong Kong concert, I believe that was like a floating stage, if I remember
It's on a
correctly.
boat.
Yeah, it's on a boat.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of like boats watching you, and I feel like there was like fireworks or something, if I remember right.
Yeah.
But um, Michael Jackson, Beat It. You got some 311 in there. Ozzy
Mhm.
Osbourne, Crazy Train. You mentioned, and they actually play. It looks like at an Ozfest.
Yes, there's an Ozfest level, which is sweet.
That is sick.
Yeah.
Some Steely Dan, got some Foo Fighters, which some people don't like the Foo Fighters. I like the Foo Fighters. Got some
It's
Survivor, some Corn. Some people don't like Corn. I'm okay with Corn. Fleetwood Mac in there. Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. Van Halen, of course. Hot for Teacher. We played this one the other night. This was our first song. So get
first
there.
song back.
First song in probably easily over a decade. We'll say 13 years for me since I picked up the Guitar Hero guitar. And I say, let's do Hot for Teacher first. Like, that's a great guitar song, of course, but is it one I can play? Spoiler alert, no. Got booed off the stage. Quickly, the wheels came off this thing. And, it didn't go well. And I remember I was like, oh, I'll probably do medium. And you're like, no, you should do hard. And I was like, no, because I did.
I don't know. I thought you could do hard. My bad. I was pushing you.
You put too much faith in me. I think we tried hard on one song, I forget, and it was bad. So I had to stay on medium. Medium is where I live. That's where I like to be. But looking back at this set list, we've got the Eagles, Hotel California. Um, La Bamba is in there even. Living on a Prayer. I used to love singing Living on a Prayer. And then I remember one time it was either my mom or my dad had come downstairs and they said it sounded like a cat was dying down here. So me, prepubescent me, shrieking out Bon Jovi in the basement probably did not sound that good in hindsight, but I still, in that moment, I thought I was nailing it. We've got some Paramore in there, Misery Business, Mr. Crowley, more Ozzy. Let's see, what else do we got? We got some Willie Nelson, so kind of a different
And
sound there.
something I want to say about Paramore. So, that was a band that I got introduced to from Guitar Hero. Haley Williams, lead singer, kind of the face of Paramore, unfortunately. The rest of the band doesn't. They never really, they wanted to be more of a band rather than a person. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so she's in the game and she sings that song. If you're not playing a singer, she comes out. Same as Ozzy. If you play an Ozzy song and there's no singer player, then he comes out. Um, and yeah, the first time I heard Misery Business, but then that pushed me then into kind of getting into them and listening to that album Riot, which is off that. And I feel like around that time they were getting really popular.
Right.
But yeah, so like that another example of me getting into that, and that's kind of that almost, like edgy kind of 2000s emo music that I got into. So there's, an influence there, and I like that style. We were at John's house this past weekend. I was there. Owen was busy with something, but I wish he could have been there. And he played Misery Business. I thought it was funny because he's playing it just because he heard it on Guitar Hero the other night.
Yeah, dude, I remember that, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to listen to this band."
Yeah,
I don't know if he had never heard of Paramore, but that's
I'm
the
sure he has. Yeah.
that's the vibe I had gotten. It's okay if we say things about him, he's never going to listen to this. I can guarantee.
Yeah,
I think this was Friday night. You were hanging out. I was busy. Just a side story. I was busy meeting David Keckner, who is a stand-up comedian, also known for some roles. He was in The Office. He was in the Anchorman movies. So that's what I was doing on Friday
much
night.
more important things than
Dude, much more important. This hanging out with you chumps. Let's see. Back to the set list. Guitar Hero World Tour. The middle, Jimmy Eat World. Misery Business, Paramore, Ozzy, Beastie Boys, No Sleep Till Brooklyn, featuring Kerry King of Slayer. Could not sing this one very well, folks. Probably still couldn't. The one I love, some REM in there. I remember my parents getting involved playing. They would play like a song or two with me just to like because they like this kind of music. So I think it was probably kind of cool to them. And I think I remember my dad playing the REM song. I think he liked that. And in a way, it's if you have the mic there, it's just like karaoke, but with a
mhm.
guitar or with a whole like kind of band. So it's a fun concept. We got some Motorhead in there. We got some Tool, as you mentioned. One of the rare instances where Tool was licensed. Billy Idol, Rebel Yell, Santeria, Sublime, Oasis, some might say. Big Oasis fan if you guys haven't
That
heard.
was the first time I ever heard Oasis, and yeah, yeah, it kinda got me into them, again. I'd say and so I liked that song, I knew that song, that kinda became a thing in my friend group, we would listen to it on the way home back when I was, like, the only person with a license in high school. Got me into Oasis in high school, and I would go skate, and it was kind of my skating music for some reason. I would listen to them in my some headphones and, yeah. So, again, it's another thing. It reminded me of being at my grandpa's house playing Guitar Hero when I listened to that song. So it was kinda, like, almost sentimental.
Dude, that's awesome. Love Oasis. We had some Black Label Society, Stillborn, Stranglehold, Ted Nugent. That's a nice long song. Of course, you play it on a farm, so that's fitting. You got some Sweet Home Alabama, Metallica, Trapped Under Ice. This is a crazy song to be featured on there. This is like a very rare, like they never play this live. It's very rare to be, even featured in something like this. But it's cool that it's in there. But
Yeah, sometimes I wonder because they'll have bands and they'll get a really unpopular song on the set list. And I wonder if it's because somebody doesn't want to do the popular song or if for some reason the way the licensing and the deal works, they're like, hey, we'll give you something maybe not as popular. But then on the previous game, they had one. So a very popular song to then Trapped Under Ice. Maybe it's something they wanted to do. Like, I don't really know how that works, you know?
right.
But yeah.
Yeah, definitely a lot going on behind the scenes, especially with like licensing. Maybe with Trapped Under Ice, it was cheaper to use that song or something like
Mhm.
that compared to a bigger song, which probably has a higher price tag, a lot of moving parts, and a lot of stuff on the back end that we as the fans don't even have to think about. Let's see. We mentioned Warriors of Rock. I'll just pull up the set list of that for fun. So this one had 93 songs by 85 artists on the disc. This was the sixth game in the franchise. I believe it was kind of Guitar Hero 5 was maybe a little bit of a struggle, and I believe the franchise was struggling at this point, and they were trying to like get back to their roots of like Guitar Hero 3 and really trying to revive things. Ultimately the Guitar Hero games go the way of the dodo bird. But before we kind of talk about the collapse and sort of where things are now, Just looking at the set list, Backcountry, Avenged Sevenfold. We played that one the other night. That was fun. That one was stuck in my head the next day.
Yeah, it's a fun
Little
one.
little bleeded out, Lincoln Park. You got some Bohemian Rhapsody, Queen, Call Me the Breeze, Leonard Skinnerd, Children of the Grave, Black Sabbath, Crying by Aerosmith. We got some The Cure, we got Foreigner, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Third Eye Blind, little Five Finger Death Punch, some Megadeth in there, Nickelback, Pantera, Children of Bodom, Anthrax, Queensryche, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Bush, Dire Straits, Alice Cooper, Foo Fighters, Metallica, and Ozzy Osbourne. More Slipknot, Styx, Night Ranger, The Offspring, and the White Stripes, ZZ Top, more Megadeth, Alter Bridge, and then there was like this whole Rush. Looks like the whole 2112 album. So if you're into Rush, go ahead and get Guitar Hero 6.
Mm.
And some Rammstein, some Twisted Sisters, some Nine Inch Nails. So, I said, 73 seems like a lot when we were talking about Guitar Hero 3, but they just kept expanding. Guitar Hero, Warriors of Rock there, that was 90 plus songs on the games. Yeah. So kind of talked about that before, went through the set list, but the decline of Guitar Hero kind of just fell out of favor, just fell out of style. Is that kind of how you view its?
Yeah, yeah. The Wii, I think, started not being as popular, and then I think it's partly the equipment. You need equipment to play. So you need guitars, you need drums. They break. If you're a little rough with them, they can break pretty easily. Guitars, maybe not so much. The drum set, I feel like. Pedals, man, the pedal that comes with the drum set, I feel like is so easy to get broken. You kind of have to have a finesse on the set to keep it going. I feel like now that I'm a bit older, and then I've rebuilt my set. No, I don't go too crazy on it. I have a little bit of I don't know, more of an easier touch on it than maybe I used to. Because I did break a drum set once, and I've gone through 3 pedals. But the one that I have now is very nice. It's pretty sturdy. So I think part of it's that. And if you're getting the game, you got to get the equipment. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, that fell out of favor. And I think also culturally, as we left the 2000s, rock and metal started to kind of decline and not be maybe as popular versus 2000s hard rock and metal was still kind of a thing. I feel like it was still bigger. So yeah, I think a combination of all those things just kind of took it down.
Yeah, definitely. I think it kind of just ran its course, and there's only so many like classic songs you can put in there. And I think too, like the cost we talked about briefly, like the cost of getting these songs in the game probably became greater and greater because I imagine when it was first starting out, it's like, oh, it's just this little Guitar Hero game. We're not going to ask for a lot of money for them to use our songs. But then as the game grew and grew, it's maybe the record labels and the artists were starting to say, all right, this is getting a lot of attention. This is getting a lot of exposure. We're going to need a bigger cut for you to have permission to use our songs. And that probably all sorts of cost factors going on there. But, the songs make the game. We've looked at several set lists from several games. What are some of your favorite songs? If you had like a list of 3 or a list of 5 that you think these are my favorites to play.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me break that down just a little bit. So guitar wise, I really only play guitar by myself. I'll play guitar if we're in a group setting. If I'm playing by myself, I play drums. Or if I'm playing Guitar Hero 3, I can only play guitar. So Stricken by Disturbed. It's my favorite Guitar Hero 3 song. Favorite on guitar. I really like that song. And I'm a Slipknot fan, obviously. So Before I Forget is cool too. I like that one on there. And The Metal from Tenacious D,
Yeah.
Jack Black, pretty funny, but it's also a good song.
Yes.
So I like those ones on 3. And then moving to drums and just talking about all of them, I really have always liked Backcountry because you move around on the set so much. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's a fun song. Laid to Rest on Smash Hits, cool song. Very fun on drums too, very groovy. Those are 2 immediate ones. Well, I also like, again, Slipknot. Psychosocial song I like playing a lot. Beast and the Harlot, Again, another Avenged Sevenfold song. I like playing that on drums. Yeah, and then World Tour, talking about like that being my favorite. I always really liked playing B from System of a Down, or sorry, BYOB. Flip those letters. Yeah. I always liked that song a lot. And the Aussie songs on there, Mr. Crowley and Crazy Train, very popular ones, very fun to play, of course. I like Corn. I like Freak on a Leash. That was always fun too. And yeah, what I've done, Lincoln Park.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say those are some good ones there.
Solid list all around. We've kind of touched on this, Guitar Hero. It's a nostalgic thing at this point. It's gone, it's over with, but you still have it. You still bust it out every once in a while and play it. I had a ton of fun playing. I was there for like 4 hours just playing Guitar Hero, and
Yeah.
I would definitely do that again. So you know where to reach me.
Here's what we need to do on that note. I should get all of the Guitar Hero games. Like at this point, I should own all of them, right?
Yeah,
Why not? And so like we should go through them. Like, and you being a huge Metallica fan, like I should get that one and we should play it. Like that would be awesome.
dude.
But I loved a good Guitar Hero night.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of fun for sure. Definitely look forward to doing that again in the future. So I think that kind of puts a bow on the Guitar Hero experience for you and for me. Do you have any kind of final words or just kind of anything you want to say before we close off this edition?
Yeah, John even too, when I saw him Friday night, he was saying a couple times, "Yeah, Guitar Hero was a lot of fun." Like, he kept saying it, and, so he even had a good time, and I think it's kind of fun for everyone. I really wish it was still around, even if it was just recycled songs too. I bet it's a nightmare dealing with, like, 90 bands and licensing for that, for a game, but I wish it was still around. I wish it was still influencing young kids on rock and metal music. Cause yeah, I think back to that and I got so much exposure. So, that's just not a popular game anymore. 10-year-olds aren't getting exposed to music like this like they once were.
Dude, playing Roblox and Fortnite.
Yeah, well, which Fortnite has Fiesta, which is Guitar Hero,
Yeah.
basically the controller.
Somebody was telling me that the other day.
So yeah, I guess they got a version, but again, it's not the same. You don't feel like you're playing guitar because it's not shaped like a guitar, and you don't feel like you're playing drums. And you're not singing. It's a little different. But yeah, I wish it was still around. Maybe it'll make a comeback one day. I've heard rumors of a Guitar Hero maybe making a comeback. They tried to like, when we were in high school, and it failed pretty miserably. Again, you needed the equipment. They completely changed what it looked like. Like the guitar works completely different. I
Right.
think I think it's like 3 and 3s that sit on each top of each other like this instead of
Uh,
just a line. Totally failed. But maybe we'll go back to it someday. There's still a huge community that loves Guitar Hero, that play Clone Hero, the modded version. So I love it. I miss it. And yeah, I'm always down to play it. So, if you ever want to play it again sometime, we'll make
dude,
plans.
you let me know and I'll be there. Definitely a good conversation here. This is just part one, though, of the two-part conversation on Guitar Hero. It's
I forgot.
Wednesday. So if you enjoyed hour one, stick around for hour two. We will talk about more things Guitar Hero. We're going to dive into Clone Hero more. I know my second guest had some things to say about that. It was really into that version. I think he said that's like one of the best versions of the game.
Yeah, yeah, it's got so many songs, they don't license it, it's like, whatever.
Yeah. So I will leave that to my second guest, but please stick around if you enjoyed this first half of the episode. Stick around for part two, where we'll dive into more things Guitar Hero. So thank everybody for tuning in today. Thank you, Jackson, for joining us. And as always,
Thank you.
never stop rocking.